Hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. So good to see you here at Mom to Be Sisterhood in the series of Two Women, One Mission, where I interview guest speakers of the field and experts of the field about pregnancy and about how we can overcome certain challenges and how they can help us. So I hope you can hear me because I have some new earplugs, and I know that one of those earplugs that I have do not work, but I can't find any other ones than this one. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it does work and you can hear me. So I have a few announcements to make today, which is just like, oh my God, I am so ecstatic about. Things are moving forward, are progressing fast in Mom to Be Sisterhood. So I cannot wait to tell you all about it, but I don't want to bombard you with information right now because I want you to feel excited as I do and take it all in. So, where do I start? One thing is obviously that this series of Two Women and One Mission is for the whole month of October, which are almost approaching the end of it, and the whole month of November, because there were so many guest speakers that were just excited to join us here at Mom to Be Sisterhood and talk about what they do, how they support and empower pregnant women, because this is what we stand for here at Mom to Be Sisterhood. And I'm bringing in those ladies, those professionals that have the same passion that I have. So, having said that, I do have another announcement to make. Tomorrow is Saturday, right? So over the weekend, I'm going to launch my website. So I have spoken about my website for a long time, and then I let it rest because things have progressed, things have developed. COVID happened obviously as well in the midst of it. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to mention it until we are actually going to launch it. And now I can announce it. We are going to launch it over the weekend. So watch out for those posts on Instagram, on Facebook, and go straight away to the website and have a look at what we do. Because if you are currently pregnant or you're trying to get pregnant, that is the place to be. I promise you, that's the place to be. So go ahead, have a look. And if you are a daddy to be, there is something for you as well. So if you're a pregnant lady who is listening to me right now, either live or in the recording, please tell your partner or your daddy to the daddy of your child to join Mom to Be Sister, to go to the website and have a look at what we offer for the daddies. Because with this COVID situation in our times, daddies do need our support as much as we do. They are left out from the appointments, from the scans, and it's already difficult for them to feel involved in the whole pregnancy process. And now with the COVID situation, it's even harder. So point them out to the website, point them out to my Instagram page, and to obviously the Facebook page. So if you're not following me on Instagram, go and follow me. There are so many useful information for you, new announcements. There is something else coming up in December. So take time off on the 1st, the 2nd, and the 4th of December. So 1st, 2nd, and 4th. We're going to have a little break in the middle, but I'm not going to say anything more, but there's something awesome coming for you. So take those days off. Sign it in your calendar. Take off the 3rd day as well so you can relax and enjoy and take everything in that we have done during the 1st and the 2nd of December. And then on the 3rd of December, you can rest, you can take it all in. And then on the 4th trimester, we go again. So yeah, all of these announcements, and I've now closed my booklet with my notes. There are so many announcements. I had to write them down quickly. So yeah, sorry. So the next thing is not really an announcement, but if you are following me on Instagram and also here on Facebook, you might have noticed that that I am speaking out, shall we say that way, hashtag but not maternity. And I stand for these COVID rules to change for our pregnant ladies. It is so important that the pregnant ladies receive the support throughout their pregnancy, but especially for labor and birth. Things have changed dramatically with this pandemic, and with this hashtag but not maternity, I am supporting this cause to change the rules. I'm hearing things that are just like out of this world, that just should not happen. So go into Instagram, share it as much as possible, so that we all create awareness on this movement. And this is taking me now very nicely to our guest speaker today, who is our lovely Darcey Croft. She is a midwife, a specialist midwife of the NHS, and she is going to help us understand a little bit more about these current rules that exist in the hospitals, if there is something we can do about it, and what is that we can do about it. Obviously, I've just mentioned this movement. There are petitions out there. But most importantly, if we are currently pregnant, which I am, and if you are currently pregnant as well, what is really important is how do you deal with it? Because obviously it brings a little bit more anxiety. So let's just take in our lovely Darcey, and let's ask her how we can overcome this anxiety, and how can we make labor and birth as comfortable as possible with this situation. And now, with no later ado, let me just introduce to you to our lovely, here we go, Darcey. Hey!
Hello, I've made it back. I've literally just raced back through the traffic to come here. So if I'm a little bit out of breath, it's just because I've been running up this.
Oh, bless you. No worries. I have made some of the announcements, and some of them will come later. But I saw you and I was like, you know what? Let me just introduce you, as it fits so nicely with the hashtag but not maternity.
Yes.
Because we are talking today about this COVID situation and how it has impacted maternity services, and you're the perfect person to come on.
Well, it's such a difficult time to be pregnant, I think, just with all of the challenges that are going on right now. I mean, pregnancy in itself is a stressful time for anybody, but lumping on top everything that society and the media is giving us, it's just I really do sympathize for anyone that's pregnant right now, because it's a trying time for everybody, not just pregnant women, but also for like the maternity units having to kind of change they're getting new rules in every week, to shift things around. So hopefully we can have a chat and make light a little bit of it.
Yes. that is what we want to do today, in fact, to help go through the situation, which we cannot change. COVID exists, these rules exist at the moment. You risk that you give birth without your birth partner. So it's I think a very important topic to talk about.
Hugely.
Yeah, yes, and I'm so grateful that you're here with us to help
thank you. And I think anything I can do to kind of just reduce or limit the fear, because I think sometimes when you're not in it, if it's not your job and you're not working in hospitals, it's really difficult to understand what is going on. So just to come on and give you kind of the behind the scenes is a great opportunity. I think at the moment, I do know that the rules are changing so much, and I think June the 5th they lifted the national restrictions. So I think when we spoke before, I said about going to your MP to kind of petition him.
Yes.
But I think now it's down to the individual trusts. So I can't really comment on, say, all the different trusts. There are national guidelines, but each individual trust will have their own rules. So I think if you're unhappy with something that's going on, you first need to kind of escalate it through your own maternity trust. And hopefully they'll...
very important. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, the good news is that pregnant women aren't shown to be any more likely to catch COVID than anybody else. You know, you're no more at risk. That's evidence-based. They did a study for that. They have put pregnant women into the moderate risk, and that means you're clinically more vulnerable. And that's just as a precaution, just because we obviously want to wrap you in kind of blankets of care. So I think that's very positive, and I think that's something to kind of like hopefully reduce the fear. So lots of pregnant women might worry because they're pregnant, they might be at greater risk, and they're just not. So that's one good thing. With the
absolutely. Thank you for that, for both information actually, because I've been shouting out loud right to your MPs. So it's good to know I don't have to shout that anymore.
Do you know what? I don't think that hurts at all, because the MPs petition the Parliament and they do whatever they do. So I think we need to be shouting at everybody to get things moving along. But I just read an email just before I came back saying that the restrictions are easing and they're hoping that the pathways kind of can return to pre-COVID pathways quite soon. So I'm really fingers crossed that does happen really quickly.
Yes, let's hope so.
That will mean, I mean, we've kind of been pre-warned that the virtual antenatal appointments, we're hoping they will reduce. So it'll be more face-to-face appointments, which is what needs to happen.
Yes, absolutely. Pregnancy brain. I was just thinking of something and it just left my mind. Oh my goodness. What was I saying?
I mean, let me give some more facts. So Black, Asian and ethnic minorities, they've always been highlighted in this pandemic as a more clinically vulnerable group. They did a study of 400 women and they did evidence that there was no more risk of hospitalization for that particular group unless there were underlying conditions. But I mean, it's important to note in that study, it was only 400 women. So it's a very, very small study. So I think that they kind of just was erring on the side of caution, because out of that 400, over 50% were in that kind of target population of the women that did go into hospital. So I think although they're saying the evidence doesn't suggest that they are any more at risk, obviously I think we still need to be cautious until we know more about because it's a very new pandemic, isn't it? It's a very new virus. So I think
and 400 cases is really not enough for a case study.
I don't think so.
More cases.
No, it's kind of a suggestion more than anything.
Exactly, like the trend kind of where it's going, type of thing. Yeah. So I kind of remember now what I was saying. You were saying, it does change from the situation, the COVID situation. The cases are rising in different areas differently. Not just here in the UK, but internationally. We have guests or audience here from the UK, from the States, from Canada. So it really depends on the situation that your area is in.
Definitely.
And so it's really important.
I like to think personally that, it's important to note that if you look at what's happening, and I'm not going to go down the conspiracy route theory because it's kind of like outside my professional remit, but if you look at flu, like seasonal flu, the cases have dropped enormously. So we're only getting, I think this year, something like 384 cases of seasonal flu, when normally it would be off the charts. Like, you know what it's like, the kids go back to school, everyone comes down with flu. So it's almost like the whole pandemic is now incorporating all of those figures as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important to note, that the flu vaccine is available and it's very promoted within maternity. I think just to kind of err on the side of caution, because, you know, you can feel rotten, you could have a cough, you can feel really flu-like, and it might be just the flu. So it's certainly not a time to kind of panic and think, oh no, I've got COVID. So I think that what I'm trying to stress is how important it is to have the flu vaccine when you're pregnant. And you can have that anytime when you're pregnant. And that's it's a very safe vaccine.
Okay. Well, you have answered there my question. I was wondering what I should do if I should have the flu jab, because I usually don't have it. But obviously, as a pregnant woman, you start then thinking differently about it.
Yeah.
And I received a notification and a letter saying, surely, you know, we would advise you.
I think it's definitely recommended in pregnancy, especially in this time, you know, of coronavirus, and when we just don't know what's really happening. Yeah.
True, yes. Now, here in the UK, it seems like the cases are rising.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of it isn't aligned with what you said, that the rules are easing a little bit more.
I think the cases are rising, but it's the hospitalizations. So it's kind of more, they're noticing more people are catching it or they're testing positive for it, but they might just have mild symptoms, even though they've tested positive, and there won't be any other concerns. You know, they'll just relax for a few days and just feel a bit crappy and then feel much better. So that's, it's not something that I worry about too much. But obviously, if you've got underlying conditions, they're the women that need to really take extra precautions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you look more at the rate of the hospitalizations, and from there you look into the rules, if you want to ease the rules or if you have to make them stricter. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not making the rules, so I think it's kind of like...
No, I meant the trust, obviously. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the trust have their individual policies, and they're working off the guidance of the Royal College of Obstetricians, Public Health England, and the government, and they obviously come to some understanding of kind of what is recommended for that particular time. So if we went to, say, tier 3, which is the worst tier that you get with the most rates, then I'm sure we would probably be a bit stricter in my area, and certainly every other area. But the area that I'm in at the moment is still kind of, I think we're still on tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be why my hospital trust are saying that we're hoping to relax and get back to kind of pre-COVID pathways. But I'm sure that's what all the trusts are hoping for.
Oh, sure, yes.
And they're probably basing it on lots of evidence that they're seeing and what's working and what's not. I think it's very sensible that, I know it's a real challenge, say, when you're on the postnatal ward, that visitors, say dads and birth partners, in my trust can only come, I think, for 1 or 2 hours a day, and they have their appointment slots and their time slots, and they will turn up and they'll see mum and baby, which in kind of like an ideal world, that's not fair, because, you know, dads want to spend time all the time with the baby and the mum. But I think those rules are there to protect you, the mums, and the staff, because obviously if the staff get sick and all go off sick, then the pressure mounts on the workforce of the staff, and then you get very miserable midwives and doctors because they're overwhelmed with it. Mm-hmm. And also, we don't want to pose extra risk for the mums. And I know all the arguments, because I've heard, like, everyone kind of comes to me and says, well, it's not fair, you know, my husband lives with me, but he doesn't live with the woman in the bed next to him. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we're kind of protecting other women in the ward. It's very, very difficult, and it doesn't really make logical sense when you unpick it all. And I really do sympathise with everyone who's kind of having to bear the brunt of all of the restrictions. And I think because it's such a new pandemic, everyone's doing the best that they can with the evidence that they've got.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yes. I've heard that some hospitals do test actually the dads, and then they still ask them to leave, which does not make sense, because if they have been tested and they have entered the hospital, and it's because they were free from
Yeah.
COVID. So why are they being asked to leave again?
I don't know. I don't know is the honest answer.
Yeah, there are things that just like don't make sense. And
I know, even to us, there are things that kind of make you scratch your head, and then you just have to kind of go along with the narrative that is what somebody much higher up than my pay grade has come up with as the most sensible thing to do. I mean, when you're looking at the scans, so now I think scans in our trust, 2 scans can be attended with a birth partner, which is so much better, because before it was like no scans, and then it's 1 scan, and now we've got 2 scans. So at least we're getting that first scan and the 20-week scan. And then scans after that are kind of just well-being growth scans. But so for those first 2, I feel that it's a real triumph. I'm not sure about other hospital trusts, what they're doing, but I do think that a lot of trusts are letting more partners into the scans.
And can you just ask your midwife in your next appointment if you can, or call them and say, can I bring my birth partner or my husband?
I would, yeah. I mean, just call them, make sure that that's what your hospital trust's policy is. We'll be telling women when they book the scans, yes, your partner, because that is the first question that everybody asks. So we certainly tell people that, yes, the partner can come along. And I guess from the point of view when they say no, or they did say no in the past when it was like no partners there, they were worried about like the sonographers. There's such a small workforce within the NHS, but they're so essential, because obviously they're not just scanning pregnant women. So if they start to reduce in numbers because they're going off sick. So I think not only was that to protect the woman and the baby, it's also to protect the staffing levels, because obviously they do need, we need the scanners there.
Yes, no, definitely.
But I think sorry to interrupt. I think some hospitals offer a video. So if you do find that you can't take your birth partner there, just ask whether you can have like a 10-20 second video, just that you can take home and sit there and experience it together with your partner.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's a great idea. Yeah. I guess at the scan, at the gender reveal, it's a bit difficult because you're sitting in a dark room.
Yes.
But what I've done is I just brought a card with me, and I said, "Can you please just write it here?" And I open it with my husband.
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
That's what I did, and that's what I said to my fellow sisterhood as well, to do that when they come to that point, because you do want to share these.
Yes. Yeah, it's a really, really important moment. And also there's the private scans, and it's not like, I don't think they're hugely expensive, but if you do come up against restrictions, I've been recommending to the mums I look after, just go and book a private scan, because they're much more relaxed with their kind of birth partner or partner coming along. So I haven't had any trouble with the private scans with people going along.
Oh,
and I think they work out about £50 to £70. And I had a private scan when I was pregnant, and you get so much more kind of time, and you can sit there and chat, and they'll probably spend more time and show you things that you might not have seen in a quick NHS scan. So,
okay. Well, you see, you can turn it around into a positive experience.
Yes.
Can't go to the hospital, go to the private care, and have actually even a better experience. Yeah, this is so important to me, that in a difficult situation, that we can take out actually something positive, turn it around into something positive.
Exactly.
So understanding what you guys are going through is really the first step for us to kind of make sense of everything. And then the next step is when we get to the point where we are in labor and we are admitted into hospital, there can be some really challenging situations because you are like, oh my God, what is happening here? Especially if it's your first child and you have no idea what's going on, and you are left on your own. We were talking about it the other day. What can a woman that is like in panic, in labor with pain, do to get that attention from the midwife, who might be at the end of her 12-hour shift,
Yeah.
and is stressed herself, because we are all human beings.
Yeah, and I think that's when you turn up in labour, and I'll try and say it from kind of both sides, because you know I've had 4 babies myself, so, and I wasn't a midwife then, so I've got like the insight of how women feel before they're midwives and they give birth. So when you turn up in labour, it's obviously it's all about you. This is your special moment. You know, this is like, it's an elemental life event. You're giving birth, and you turn up, and then someone looks at you, and they kind of go, no, go home, you're only 2 centimeters. And then you have to go, and then there's that disappointment. And even now, we can't have birth partners until you're in established labor, so like 4 centimeters. So it is better to stay at home as long as you can, relax, and kind of, and I know as soon as you get twinges, especially with your first baby, the first thing you want to do is kind of jump in the car and race, because all the movies have made it look really dramatic and like the baby's just going to come out really quickly. And that doesn't happen that often. I mean, it does happen, but not that often. And especially with first babies normally take their time. I would say if you were kind of really, really feeling the contractions and they're quite regular, you've still got a good 6 hours. So there's no rush. And if there is a major rush and you think you're not going to make it to the hospital, call them, and someone will probably come to you, or an ambulance will get you to the hospital quite quickly. So I think the fear that I'm seeing with everyone saying, well, we can't have our birth partners there, that's not true. It's only in kind of before you're in established labour. So if you relax and labour at home in early labour, that's really is the best thing, because it's proven, and there's evidence to show that women who labour early at home have less interventions than kind of if you're in a long time in hospital. Because I suppose if you're in hospital, us as midwives and doctors, we want to do things with you. So we kind of we hurry you along.
Feels almost like going to the hairdresser. They cut always, they can't stop cutting. And the doctors just want to play with you and get the
it gets a little bit shorter and shorter. But I think once you are in established labour and you're admitted into the hospital, if you feel that you kind of, your midwife comes in, she might not be smiling, or she might look really grumpy, it's really easy. And I think as pregnant women, there's lots of changes in the brain, and I'm just going to touch on like the mental health side. So you have a structure in your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala kind of, it rationalizes fear and it controls your fight or flight. So it is your response mechanism. So when you're pregnant, this amygdala grows to 3 times the size. It's like your evolutionary marvels. So if I was way back in caveman day, I would definitely want pregnant women on my team, because they are so more open to like viewing threats and kind of just being reactive and being ready for, because they have to be, because they're in a vulnerable condition. So they're going to be scanning, or their subconscious mind is scanning the area the whole time. You're reading people's faces unconsciously, you're interpreting what they might be thinking and what that might mean to you. And it's all a process to keep you safe in this vulnerable time. So when you come into the labour ward, and you're on labour, and your midwife walks in and she looks really stressed, and she looks at you and she might not smile, you're probably going to take it personally. You're probably going to think, oh, she doesn't like me. I don't like this midwife. She's not fun, and she doesn't care about me. And it probably isn't that at all. It's probably, you know, we don't know what she's just finished with another patient who she might be really stressed out about. Her coordinator might be on her back to finish her notes. She might have been on the shift for 12 hours. And like you say, she is just human. So she's probably having quite a hard time, especially I think I'm seeing a lot of tiredness with the midwives at the moment, just with the whole pandemic thing and the short staffing. So they are under a lot of stress. So if you're aware that your midwife comes in and you think, oh, she looks really stressed, it's a really good idea to just kind of get her to see you as a person. She's still going to be giving you care, but what you need is that kind of mental support from her, as well as all of the obstetric care that she's giving. So I think just asking her how her day is, and it's almost like we were talking about it. It's really the pregnant woman's job to kind of launch a charm offensive for the midwife. And most midwives are absolutely lovely, but occasionally you're going to get a stressed one. And if you do get a stressed one, you might kind of just talk to her like you would if she was a friend who was stressed. And then I find when I'm like chatting away to women, it kind of just diffuses any stress, and I forget what's going on behind, like in my work life. And I go, do you know what? In this room, it's like this lovely sanctuary. There's me and my mom, and we're just like having a really nice time. And I think it really adds to the occasion, because then I would kind of feel de-stressed. You're going to feel de-stressed. Dad's going to feel de-stressed, and it's just going to really help the situation. And then when you're on postnatal ward, midwives have to look after. I mean, at my last hospital, each shift I'd be looking after 24 patients who are all wanting something immediately. So, and then there's drug rounds and there's IV antibiotics to put up, and everybody needs something then. And so, like, if a woman wants help with breastfeeding, that's going to take a little time, but then somebody else might want something else. So you're pulled in all these different directions. So it is very easy, I think, to get worn out very quickly. So I think if you're on labour ward, say you're being induced, because I do know when you're being induced, were you induced with your last baby?
Yes, I was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're lying there and you're in incredible pain and you've got these contractions and it feels like no one's listening to you, because the midwife is just here, there and everywhere else. And you kind of keep ringing your bell, and the midwife keeps coming around and going, there's nothing I can do for you until labour ward take you downstairs. There's really nothing I can do for you. And it really sets off. It's not a good interaction communication wise, because she hasn't got that time to sit down with you and kind of make you feel better and at ease and reduce your fear. But she's kind of keeping an eye on you. So she knows that you're all right. But you really are on your own at that point. And that is, I think, the failing in the system, is that I liked it when the dads were able to come into inductions. So they would sit there and they would be able to give that, or a doula was there. That's kind of the ideal situation. And the midwife's job is to make that woman feel less afraid. But sometimes she's pulled in so many different directions. It's really, really difficult. And that I think that is a failing.
Yeah, sounds like that. Yeah, 24 women to look after.
Well, that was 12 women, 12 babies.
Okay. Well, still,
you kind of
20.
everyone says, oh, it's only 12 women, but you go, actually, there's a new human being with them as well. So that is actually that little human being is now a patient.
Exactly. The little human being needs also support in exactly. how to start with the breastfeeding, how to feel in this new environment outside the womb and everything. So
yeah. So I think knowing all of this and knowing that you might go in and you might, have a fresh midwife and like none of this will apply, and that's quite often the case. But for the women that go in and they don't have such a great experience, I think what we need to do is kind of almost prepare them. Because when you go to NCT classes, do you know about NCT?
Yes.
So they're like the antenatal classes. I don't think they prepare you for, say, hospital environments so much.
Yes.
Because I've looked after women who have kind of been weeping on my shoulder afterwards going, they never told me it would be like this in the NCT. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think it is a good idea to know kind of like, it might be challenging. So what can we do about that to make it less challenging? So if you are being induced and you're in the bed and you don't have your partner around, which is a really big fear, and you are contracting, you're in a lot of pain, there are things that you can do yourself. You kind of to take responsibility of it. So if you're prepared and you've already downloaded some kind of nice soothing hypnotherapy tapes, doesn't have to be hypnobirth because not everybody does that, but like nice meditation tapes, and you kind of put them on and it just helps your mind kind of relax and it takes the fear away. And it's the fear that is giving you the worst challenge. Yes, I think if we can combat fear, then we can almost deal with anything. Like, when you're having a really good day and then someone comes up to you and they might be in a really bad mood or they might be really annoying and you're like, oh, it doesn't matter because I'm in a good mood, and they don't bother you. But when you're having a crappy day, someone will come up to you and say something and it'll just trigger you. And that's what we have. That's the fear triggers people. So we have to do everything we can to reduce that fear.
Yeah.
So the way we can do that is preparing ourselves with lots of knowledge of what to expect. So the amount of ladies who've turned up to be induced, and I say, well, do you know what we're doing? Expecting them to say, yes, I know. And they don't. No one's, maybe they've been given a leaflet, but they didn't really know what the process was. So I think if somebody says, right, you know, you've got to 40 weeks, if not another week and 5 days, if you still haven't delivered, we might look at the induction route. It's a really good idea to really familiarize yourself with what you have to do or what will be done to you, because that knowledge will take away a lot of the fear.
Yes.
We can practice breathing techniques. There's progressive muscle relaxation. So there's all these different things that we can do just to get you into a state of relaxation, because the more relaxed you are, the quicker baby's going to come, the happier you're going to be. And yeah,
it's really very physical. That fear that is psychological translates in the fear, in the body fear, which makes the muscles or tense. And the tension of the muscles doesn't let you relax to open up and let the baby come out. So you find yourself in a vicious cycle of fear, muscles contracting, pain, and baby not coming out because you are so in fear and so tense. What you actually need is to be as relaxed as possible so that the muscles can do their work and push the baby out. And the more relaxed you are, the less pain you will have.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's all about trying to work together with your brain. So the more knowledge you have about how the body works and how it is connected to the brain, the more you know what to do to get to a good place. And make sure and ensure that you can overcome that time when your birth partner is not with you on your own and feel empowered. And this is what Mom to Be Sisterhood is really about, because I have not had the information like your patients about what is induction. I went in and looked at it because I am a very curious person. But although I've done a lot of research to understand what it is and I decided I don't want it, I still was not prepared for what actually came, and I was not prepared of the conversation that then turned it actually around of me having an induction. Although I worked on the birth plan, don't give me an induction, I don't want one. I expressed it verbally, but they then have said, the first time they said like, oh, it will be very gentle and we'll see how it goes. I'm like, okay, very gentle, fine. But for some reason that ended up then to be a consent of me having induction. So I would have been prepared better knowing that, try it once, try it twice, but you are always allowed to say, no, we stop here now.
Everything is, and this is what I found when I had my babies, that I didn't really understand what consent was. So consent, nobody can do anything to you without your consent. So you don't even need to have vaginal examination. So when you come into hospital in the UK, we normally, when you're in labour on the labour ward, it's normally every 4 hours you have a vaginal examination to check your progress. And I thought that when I had my babies, I thought, oh, that's just what they do. But that is absolutely a consent thing. And I've had ladies that say, I prefer it if you didn't examine me. And there are ways to tell how a woman's progressing without that examination. Obviously, it's a lot easier with the examination and we can be a little bit more accurate. But you can tell by the way a woman is labouring, her body mannerisms, the sounds that she's making, whether, we're close or not.
Yeah, but in the classes you are encouraged to have them because it gives you a better reading. It's good to point really out in the session that you don't have to give your consent.
No, you are in control the whole time. Everything is your choice.
And the more informed you are,
exactly,
the
better the choices. Yes. And if you don't understand something, some people can feel like, oh, I can't ask a question because, that's a silly question. It's not a silly question. And everyone knows that it's not a silly question because you're not in obstetrics. So if you have any questions, I mean, I've had dads ask me, "Oh, how is the baby breathing? You know, when it's like being born." He's like, "But how is it getting air?" Now, to me, because you obviously know the physiology of everything, I kind of look at him and go, well, it's having the oxygen through the mother's blood the same as it is the whole of the pregnancy. And he's like, oh, right, okay. But there's no silly question.
No, there isn't. And also, if there is a situation where you feel like the midwife is stressed and goes and comes very quickly, just try and stop her, because it's really, really important you ask those questions.
Exactly.
The midwife cannot know that you have a question until you make yourself aware.
And she might not even know, well, she doesn't know what you're thinking. So if you are feeling that way, you might be sitting or lying in the bed, having all of these thoughts, but she's thinking, oh, she's fine. You know, we've still got a few hours to go. She seems quite happy, so I'll just nip in and out, do my thing. But you might be sitting there thinking, I could do with some extra support. So it really is okay for you to say to her, I'm feeling a bit stressed. Can I have a little bit more support? Because if she knows how you're feeling, then she's going to make allowances to tailor her care just for you.
Exactly, yeah. It's about really make your voice heard, make your needs heard, and don't be shy.
No, don't be shy. I mean, I'll probably I won't be a favourite for saying this, but when we have so on our wards, we might have beds of 6 women to a bay. And the woman who kind of complains or shouts the loudest normally gets the most attention. And you'll have other women, and I'll be popping in going, are you fine? And she's like, no, I'm fine. And she doesn't want anything. And she might want, well, she does need as much care as the one that's shouting louder. But because she's kind of she's not demanding attention, she's probably, everyone's kind of going, no, she's fine. So I'm going to look after the one that's demanding attention. So I'm not telling everyone to be demanding divas. But if you do have something that you need, then speak up about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is also a character thing. I mean, there are some women that are a bit more, quiet and do their own thing, or there are women that really actually are a bit more, have a bit more temper, have maybe Italians like me.
I was working in one London hospital, and it was when I was a student, and the bell went off at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I went into, it was a side room. I went into the side room, and the mum looks over at me. I said, what can I do for you? And she said, oh, my husband, he's asleep on the floor. Could you pull his covers up? He's getting a bit cold. Being a student, I kind of went along. I was like, oh, is this part of my job? And I tucked him up on his little bed. And I thought, I'm sure that's not what I've signed up for.
Look at this woman, how worried she was for her partner.
So we do get unusual.
How worried he was. He fell asleep.
He shouldn't have even been asleep. He should have been up looking after her. I'll fluff up his pillow as well.
Oh, bless you. But what a kind gesture you did, even if it was written on your job.
I wouldn't do that now. I would probably say, no, he can pull up his own covers.
He shouldn't even sleep here. Let me wake him up.
Exactly.
Oh, wonderful. Darcey, thank you so very much for this.
Oh, it's so lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, wonderful to talk to you too. And I really hope it has been very, very helpful for the ladies out there. It was definitely helpful for me. And I just feel empowered just by knowing what I can do in case I get to the situation where I'm not going to have my husband with me. I obviously hope that he's going to be there also for his own sake.
Well, I think when you're giving birth, all partners should be able to come with you. That's kind of the national guidelines. So I don't think there are any restrictions on birth. In fact, it's encouraged for you to have a birth partner, because the evidence is there that it is such an important thing to have that support there. So
yeah, for sure. But unfortunately, it has happened that the partners, went back home and then were called, and by the time they came back,
I think if that's the case, if they're sent back home, they probably need to plan And this is the thing. So you've got your birth plan, but we need a pandemic birth plan. So you turn up to the hospital and they say, well, you know, we're going to put you on the antenatal ward. Your partner can't be with you until you come down to the labour ward. So maybe if you've packed some cushions or some pillows in the car, he can go off and maybe have a bit of a snooze in the car or not go too far away. And I think it's making allowances to have a workaround rather than going all the way back home and waiting for a call, because things do happen quickly occasionally. And so if he's sitting in the car park or having a bit of a snooze in the car park or sitting there playing on his phone, then he's going to be ready to run back in.
They can do that wherever they are, isn't it? Playing on their phones. Yeah. Fantastic. And with this last tip, I want to thank you so very much. Time flies. It's amazing with all.
Oh, I can't believe how. And we've only covered just like a little bit. I had so much else to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, you're definitely welcome to come back, Darcey. So, absolutely.
Just one last thing. I've made a kind of meditation tape, which is kind of relaxing. So I've done one for like sleep. So people who are struggling to get sleep because their minds might be racing with all the anxious thoughts. So I've done one of those, and I've done another one. So I'll give you the link. And if you want to share that with your mums, then they can kind of just put some headphones on and have a listen to that.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so very much. Really appreciate it. I thank you for all the sisterhood. I will listen to it for sure. I love meditation, and you have such a beautiful voice. It's going to help me.
Well, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist as well, so it kind of like they're very hypnotic tapes. So my partner, I put it on, and he's asleep within a minute. He literally can't make it to the end of the tapes. Like it works.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks again, Darcey.
Lovely to see you.
I am going to see you again because we are going to have you here again.
Fantastic.
Definitely have more questions for you.
Fantastic.
Okay, you do take care of yourself.
Yes, great to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So here we are with our Darcey Croft. Wasn't that an awesome interview? I mean, I loved it, and I loved it so much that we went actually quite over time, and I'm very sorry for that. So I'm just going to announce the next guest speaker. Next week we have Marion, that is my personal trainer, and we're going to discuss how you can help yourself physically. So now this conversation with Darcey was about how we can overcome the fear of giving birth during COVID and how we can handle the situation in the hospital when we are alone. The next time we're going to talk about, with a personal trainer, how we can help our bodies to carry the weight of a baby and prepare the body for birth, which is obviously also very important. Now, these are all examples to show you what you can get from the Mom to Be Sisterhood program. I am creating a program for everyone that is pregnant. And in this program, you will go through step by step with my guidance and with the guidance of all these experts that I'm bringing over here to you to enable you to go through the steps without overwhelm and feeling empowered and feeling calm and without fear, and just go into this labor and give birth and just be a happy mommy, because this is really what I want you to be, a happy mommy. A happy mommy makes a happy baby, makes a happy family. And this is what Mom to Be Sisterhood is about. I wanted to make some other announcements, but I leave it for the next time. I'm going to say good night to you, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so very much for joining me here today again with our lovely Darcey, and I will see you next week, Friday, with Marion. Kiss and bye-bye. You do take care of yourself, sisterhood. Bye.